Hello, gorgeous people. It's so good to see everyone here today. People are coming in fast and furious. I have lots of questions stored up for Claudia. Please remember the rules. Only quirky questions allowed on this one, guys. Only quirky questions. The quirkier, the better. Again, I'm going to, because we have a lot of people coming on this call. We had people coming at the last minute asking to join. So I'm going to filter the questions through to Claudia myself, and hopefully we'll have time for everything everyone has. But I will send Claudia the chat because, of course, you know, the guests are given very strict instructions to ignore you guys completely in the chat. But if you do have anything you want Claudia to see, she will see it immediately after the call. She'll have the chat box. So we're going to dive right in. I did tell Claudia, I'm going to say a couple of things. I did tell Claudia first, okay, full stop. The reason I initially asked you on the call, aside from, of course, you're a wonderful narrator and all that, is Sanditon. I'm like a bit of a Sanditon junkie, a tiny bit. Every time you post it, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I know Claudia and have a conversation in real life on Zoom with Claudia, that means that I am one step less removed from Sanditon. And some of that, I'm just a bit of a cult follower.
Oh, you are not alone, Danny. It's a popular
beautiful.
one.
It's
It is a
beautiful and
gorgeous
it's
show.
Special. So there's so many things I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about, because I know you and Nicole do that. What's the name of the job that you do?
Audio description?
Yes, that's it. You do
Mhm.
audio description, and I'm a complete novice. I don't understand how it works, and I've got questions about that. And I've got questions about the time you tripped the President of the United States. Am I getting that right? But I
Yeah.
want to first get to, how the hell are you so popular? I was telling you before this call that Curtis was the only one. I had Curtis on,
Curtis.
and so many people wanted to see him. To be honest, it was getting a little annoying. Like, people were coming out of the woodworks. And after the call, I looked, and he, within a day, already had higher numbers than all the greats, Scott Brick, Johnny, all of them. Curtis was like and you're shaping up to be the same. What is it that you do? Do you send people gifts, or you like?
As I said earlier, I would never presume to be in the Curtis category. I join the masses who love him dearly. I just treat people as I would like to be treated, and try to do unto others, as they say.
Where do you meet the most of your friends? Are you like on Clubhouse a lot, or Facebook? Where do you meet the most of your other narrator friends?
I think I was a later adopter to Clubhouse. I really started out with Anna Clements through your group, Daniela. You were such a huge connector during the pandemic. Just, really a lifesaver in so many ways. And I was just curious, if I may ask you, when did you start Cup of Joe? Was it during the pandemic, or was it just before?
Yeah, no, it was literally, when they took I don't know if you remember when ACX stopped paying us for the codes that they gave out. And that one day, everyone got on that indie group and they were like, that's it. All these new people recording in their closets are going to steal our work, and we're all going to die, and we're all going to be living under a bridge and eaten alive by our cats. These bastards are coming to take our jobs. Literally, that was like all the posts. You know how it is online. One little person says something and suddenly full scarcity comes out. And I thought the best way to not start hating everyone, these bastards sitting in their closet stealing my lunch, are to become friends with them. So we started
That makes sense.
Hang out, and we'd talk about what was in front of our mind. And it was the old school calls, and they were lovely because you walked away with like 6 really good friends. I'm going to do them again soon, but it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of, because it's very close. Like, it's like a very emotional, it's weird to describe. I can't. But yeah, so now we're all best friends, and you are one of the best friends. And oh my God, you had the most glamorous life. Tell me about 10-year-old Claudia.
10-year-old. Okay. I was a gymnast when I was a kid. Started gymnastics early on, and competed up through college, intramurals in college. So that was a big part of my life. And Girl Scouts, of course. I
Wait,
was a
are
Girl
they
Scout.
ruthless? Like school gymnastics, are they as ruthless as you hear? And if I call you Claudine, just yell at me because I have a friend, I have a good friend named Claudine, so I have a bad
No
habit
problem.
of. Okay, so were they ruthless, like tripping each other when they could and all that?
I think it's gotten more so over the years. Coaches too. Uh, so, because I started early on in school and in that capacity, there was some ruthlessness, but nothing compared to the expose documentaries we see now, and
Okay.
putting things in people's ballet shoes, etc. We didn't
But
resort to those things.
what about when puberty hit? Was there pressure to have a certain body type being a gymnast?
Yes, although I was pretty lanky and was not an early developer, so that wasn't as big a problem for me as it was for some of my colleagues and friends. They, more radical changes, and you hit the parallel bars in a different way, and you're weighted in a different way. So
Wow.
that is an issue.
What about discipline? Like doing school and that at the same time? What kind of discipline did that require?
Yeah, you committed to hours after school each day to, prepare for competitions and just do your regular workouts just to stay at a certain level, and you're always working at a new routine or a new trick or move. Um, so there, yeah, you did miss other things
Yeah.
because of it, but we loved it, so we didn't feel like we were missing out. It felt like we were where we wanted to be at the time.
You sound really focused and driven. Were you like, were you a dreamer or were you like, I'm going to get what I want, I'm going to do? Were you quiet and quietly determined? Those two words
Um,
seem to go together for some reason.
I actually wasn't quiet, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, I was kind of loud and all over the place when I was younger. I did a lot of skits, and I did a lot of writing my own skits, and then I found these when I moved my mom out of our family home a few years ago. These reel-to-reel tapes that I did. I'd write all these characters, and then I'd play them all out, and I'd forgotten I had done that
I
till I
love
found
that.
these reel-to-reel tapes. I've got to get a player. So one of these days, I don't have a reel to reel anymore to listen. But I was about 10 when I started doing that, and so I spent a lot of time doing that. I have one brother; he's 7 years older, so essentially we were different generations
Yeah.
almost. We didn't have much to do with each other in the way of playtime, so I did entertain myself quite a bit.
But I mean, a couple of things strike me. The fact that you were 10, because I do believe that when we're 10, we're the best of ourselves. I mean, everyone's life is like different, but also the fact that you sound kind of like me. Like I'm used to most narrators saying, well, I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. You don't sound like you sound like like me. Like you don't sound like you're an introvert very much.
I mean, I love being around people, but I
Yeah.
do, I have to, I don't say recover, but I have to recharge
Yeah.
afterwards too. If it's a lot of people, like, as we're all headed toward APAC in a few minutes, I've got my strategy and I'll need to go back to the room every now and then, just kind of recharge. So I love being around people, especially now when we've had
Yeah.
so little of it in recent years, and kind of so
I'm so
compartmentalized.
jealous. I am. I was talking to Anna about APAC, and she's like, "You do realize that it's like one day, and it's just a little time with the publisher, and the rest of it is hanging out with people." And because I don't leave the house, I think, but I think, and I want to, and I realized afterwards, I was like, people don't realize that's the whole point. Oh my God, look at the outfit you can wear. You can wear one for this night, one for that night. It's like a kegger. It is like a kegger, like 4 days with
Yeah,
Splendiferous and Johnny Hallett. It's like a kegger with
yeah,
fabulous outfits.
yeah. So I'm sure you could. I'd love to see your closet. I can only imagine.
I I I I, I did a clear out of Marie Kondo thing where you're
Oh,
supposed
you
to get out,
did.
get rid of things that don't spark joy. So now
Yes.
my closet is only suited to either a high-end prostitute or
At least it's high end.
But I don't care. You reach an age you don't care. Don't care.
That's right. It's all in the, it's all in how you wear it
So
anyway.
take me on your journey. So you've been doing gymnastics. So did you have a plan for your life? Did you have I want to do this, or did you have goals, or were you live in the minute?
I did school plays when I was a kid. So my first role was Gretel. And the second role was the Artful Dodger. That was fun.
That's a good one.
I got to play a boy. I loved that. Loved playing
And
a
that's
boy.
a great part as well.
Yeah, it was a great part, and I was always drawn to dance, and so there was a lot of dance, and it was musical theater. So I kind of lit the spark, and I wanted to be an actress from early on, but I took kind of a not a straight route to it, and I was waylaid right after college. I did go to college in Maryland, University of Maryland. I double majored in dance and theater. And my day of graduation was when I went downtown to the interview for the White House.
That was when you tripped the president.
Not that day, but
Okay.
yes, at some point later on. Way to start out.
So how did you go from dance to doing that? Where did that?
Well, that was dance and theater, they were kind of an organic combination. But that was that just came out of left field. That wasn't the plan. The White House wasn't the plan. It was,
Who gave you the idea?
A friend from college knew I could type fast. That was my skill. So she called me and said, "Hey, would you like to do this summer job, this part-time thing? I know you're going to get your MFA." I was all set at Catholic University to get my MFA in acting. And she said, "It's, for the summer, we just really need help, and I know you can type fast." So I said, "Okay, but in the fall, I can't stay." So I didn't even know where I was going for the interview. I ended up at the old executive office building, which is in the White House complex.
Wow.
And eventually I figured it out. I got the job, and it took about 6 months or so to get my top secret security clearance. And I later found out, years later, that they had gone to all my neighbors' houses, the Secret Service, parents of my college friends, and as far down as Nassau, Bahamas, because I had a family of friends I would visit in Nassau.
Okay, but it's weird.
Yeah, they don't fool around with that, because it was for physical proximity to the president. It wasn't access to records. So and Reagan had just been shot 2 years earlier, so they were really on high alert.
And he was an actor, funny enough, but at what point did you stop? Because I maybe you're different, but I would have, for some time into that, during that summer job, been doing a lot of, "I'm an actress. I'm just doing this just temporarily. I'm just here for the summer." And was there a moment that you thought, "Oh, wait, I quite like this. I could do more with it"?
Yes. Well, it was when I realized how much, first of all, I realized where I was working, because I didn't even really know until I got in there and started going over to the West Wing, and that was a regular, daily occurrence. And then the travel, you would travel with the president wherever he went. So sometimes on Air Force One, and sometimes on the press plane, which was much more fun. The food was much better. And the press was a blast, But there was a point during the summer where it was a real quandary, because I was registered and ready to, I had a plan. Yeah. So I went to Father Hartkey. He was the head of the theater department and that program, and I was all set up to be his personal assistant on work study, etc. And so I went into him for a sit down, and I just said, "I'm torn. I've got this, and then I've been given this opportunity. They're both fantastic, and I want to be a good actress, and I want to be dedicated, and yet there's this. What do you think?" And to his credit, I thought he advised me well. He said, you're only going to get one opportunity to work in the White House and have that experience. And the best thing was, he said, you don't have to audition. Once you're done there, if you want to come back, just come to the program. So I said, shwoo, I don't have to audition again. This was quite the process.
Did you go back to the program?
I didn't. No, I did not. I stayed at the
Why?
White House. Well, by the time I left, I'd always wanted to come to Los Angeles. And by that time, I was 30, and it was time, tick, tick, tick. So I decided to come out here and get my SAG card and do on-camera work. And I was still doing a lot of musical theater. That was where I kind of started. So I did that.
Moving to LA thing, I know that feeling, the excitement. And I don't know if you can relate, but you drive down Wilshire and you feel like some of the Hollywood greats have been in this ride, breathing the same air that you're breathing. Like, there is that feeling. You can't deny it. I mean, there are a lot of horrible things.
Sure.
And LA, I'm sure, gave me a total eating disorder. There are a lot of horrible things, but there is magic in the air, and you can breathe it in.
Yeah, there's a reason that people flock to it every year, and that's the industry here. It's entertainment, and it draws a lot of creatives and all different aspects, and you meet like-minded, similar-spirited folks. Definitely, there's a magic to it, and then there's you also pound the pavement, right? Yeah. You're having all the same challenges, etc., that you would anywhere else there. So I lived there for maybe a little over 32, 33 years or so. And in 2018, we moved to Santa Barbara, where I am now. And so, but that spark was lit with Santa Barbara, because with Reagan, we came here a lot, because he had his home here. So all aspects of life seem to have brought me back here. But I'm in LA often. Most weeks I'm in there to work.
Santa Barbara, I mean, what's not to like?
Yeah, I'm grateful every day we wake up and go, hey, we live here, because it's far cry from North Hollywood, and it's access to natural beauty. And to be having to shelter these past years, it was a far better place to do that, be able to be outside and among connecting with the natural beauty to keep us resilient.
Yeah, I miss that. I miss it. I spent a lot of my childhood in a cabin in Shaver Lake. Do you know Shaver Lake?
I don't know it, no.
It's near Yosemite, kind of like the lesser, like Bass Lake, and shows how much I remember my childhood. But like, there's some unbelievable nature still in California that you can't find in a lot of places in the world, like just pure, fresh, clean nature. And you don't find that, many places.
Yeah, it's a lot of vast, expansive areas, and it does, equal the majority of the East Coast. So you have that, there are some semblances of seasons. The further north you get, of course. With global weirding, things are changing. It's not quite as predictable as it once was.
Okay, so I have two questions. So,
yes,
did you ever regret that decision, or do you ever wonder what it would have happened if you'd gone the other direction and gone straight to the MFA? I know you can't regret your life, but do you know what I mean?
Right. And of course I've thought of it, and wondered what that direction would have taken. But I don't regret choosing the White House, because it gave me, I was still in my formative years as a young adult, and it gave me exposure to so much, traveling the world in a manner to which I have yet to be accustomed again. I mean, it's, we were all over, we were always staying usually in the building where the president was. And I met some incredible people, lifelong friends and journalists, and just humans, that I'm still in close contact with. So it really, I think it enriched my life in a way that I wouldn't have had access to otherwise.
I can see that. Can you think of ways that it informed you? Because as you said, you were in your formative years. Can you think of ways that it possibly changed you, things that you learned or that things that you became through that job that you might not have if you hadn't had that job? Life lessons you learned, things that we all become what we're formed by. What would you say that is from those White House years?
I think I gained a sense of maybe reverence and respect for people who sacrifice and really for the greater good. You know, I saw a lot of that, of course, in the military around me, but the journalists, you know, they had a higher purpose in a lot of cases, to convey and communicate the truth. And I really observed them in real time. You know, they'd be up for 24 hours, and when we would change time codes and land in another country and they'd be on the ground, I respected that a lot. I learned a lot about that dedication, how to the long game, and how to each day commit to something and make sacrifices. I learned a reverence for that. I think also protocol, you know, there's a lot of be seen and not heard, you know, and you learn how to comport yourself as a young person that I hadn't learned or hadn't been in that environment up to that point. So of course, there's an element of formality around it that I hadn't been living in. So I learned the difference and maybe how the subtleties of how to conduct myself in certain situations and communicate. So those are some of the things that come to mind.
Oh, you're set for APAC. You've got APAC under. But did you, so Dark Nights of the Soul? Because we all come to like the time in life where we question ourselves or lack of confidence or what's our next move. Have you had any of those yet?
Sure. I mean, you know, when I first came out here, I didn't have a real plan. I've worked for a short time at a production company in Palos Verdes Estates that folks I had met back in DC, and they said, give us a call. And I did that I produced some show openings and cast some things, but that's not what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to act. So, I didn't really know many people here. So in LA, so that was lonely, and I didn't really second guess coming out, but I wasn't sure where I was going.
Your first night, where did you stay your first night? Like a hotel? Did you already have a place? Did you drive there and just like, what was it like your first day in LA, your new life?
Oh, I think, I got a place in Pacific Palisades. I got a
Before
place.
You'd gone out there. But like
I think I had gone out maybe for a trip beforehand. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I forgot. I stayed with an old college friend. He had an apartment and he had a room. And so I came out, and that was in Eagle Rock. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good. The Omen was a girlfriend and me. We drove my Toyota Corolla across country, and we both had our bikes on top. And we made it, you know, from Maryland. You know, we went all around the country, visited people, and just went zigzagged up and down the country to stay with people and see things. And we made it all the way across. And the night that we got to my apartment, I drove through the complex, and there was one of those walking bridges, and I smashed into it. My bike ripped off the top of the car, and it was like, this is not a good sign. So, I soon left the Eagle Rock place, and I realized that Pacific Palisades was kind of more where I wanted to hang and, set in roots. But I soon moved up to Santa Barbara for a couple of years because I had a lot of friends here, and was able to do some equity theater here and kind of get my footing. And then I went back to LA, and that's when I was ready studied with Michael Shurtleff, who had written one of my college books. I was so excited. It was called Audition. I don't know if you know
Oh,
it.
I love those moments when something that you noticed or that loved or thought when you were young comes back and meets you
Hmm.
in a different part
Yes.
of your life. I love those are synchronicity to me. Those are meant to
Yes.
be moments. I love
I
that.
think
Okay,
so
I have a
too.
quirky question I've got to fit in
Okay.
here.
Sure.
From Kim, she says, with all the interesting, influential people you've been around, have you ever been tongue-tied when meeting someone? And if so, who was it?
Hmm. Yes. I met Maggie Thatcher. She and I were standing outside of Maggie, me and Maggie. And she was visiting the White House, and we were just outside the Oval Office, and I was waiting to go in and cover an event. And she came walking, and she'd been there, it was later in the day, and she was telling me how her feet were killing her. And so we got her a chair, and sat down. We were at the Rose Garden. It was just the two of us. And she was just talking to me like one girl with sore feet to another. And I just felt like I couldn't put it together because I was so enamored of her, and just, she's part of history. And I was so in awe of her and what she'd accomplished. And as a woman, yeah, it's
I
still a
love that.
decidedly man's world.
I have to say what Sarah said, the Magster. I like that. I'm going to think of it.
Yes.
No.
Excellent. Yeah. That's a
But
great
it's and
moniker.
that and what you said about journalism gives me, because I confess, and you see all the news these days is so, I think we've all become kind of cynical. I mean, I
Mhm.
find that we've become more what's the opposite of cynical? You can tell I'm a narrator. I can't even think of my words. Um, we've all become more open as individuals to each other and more cynical about government, journalists, them. Because
Mhm.
I think that's it's you feel like there's is everything's kind of dangerous. You can't believe what anyone says, and you're cynical. So hearing you say that about journalists and other people that are
Mhm.
really out there sacrificing, and because even when you hear them talk about each other sacrificing and saying these people are trying, you don't believe them anymore because you think they're just, this is this station trying to tell me their side of it. And so
Right.
it's lovely. And when I asked you how it changed you, and you said that's, think of what a profound gift that path you took in life is, that it formed your personality as not jaded.
Yeah, I mean, I realized it was a gift in my life. It was a special time. And it wasn't something I sought out. It was something I was given, that opportunity. So, I think of it with gratitude and what I can, build on from that, those foundational things I learned. You know, one aspect that was interesting that you reminded me of when you talk about then versus now is that our office, my particular arm of the press office, we were all registered Democrats, every one of us. We were blue, blue, blue Democrats, and everyone knew it. And of course, the two administrations I worked with were Republican, and we all peacefully coexisted. There were no secrets. We understood. We just, you know, agreed to disagree on certain things. So, and we worked together. Now that's no longer the case because we were contracted in at the time, and now everything's politically appointed, from my understanding. So that was a difference, that, as you said, that all exists together in the same world as what you've seen with journalism.
But if
It's
humans like that existed, it wasn't that long ago. It makes you feel a little bit safer that surely there are people. It gives you a little bit of faith in humanity.
mm,
And you
yes.
don't get that these days by reading anything or watching anything or being exposed to anything. You just don't. And it's nice to have some faith in humanity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because it is a very
sure.
cynical age, even with doctors. How many of you get a diagnosis from a doctor and you're like, yeah, do they know what they're talking about? Should I check Google? Well, Google says you're wrong, because I think it's a culture we're in right now that
Mhm.
it's more jaded, and it's quite sad. It's lovely that you have that experience. And yeah.
Yeah, you know that it has been, and so that it can be again.
Yeah.
It's possible to.
And maybe it still is. There are good people everywhere. That all the
Mhm.
good people didn't just suddenly disappear. There
Right.
there
Yeah.
have to be good people still in places. Do you
Hmm.
know what I mean? And that's something I'm going to hold on to personally, because I become a little bit, okay, I shouldn't listen to the news first thing when I wake up.
Maybe not. Maybe
Um,
not first thing. Yeah.
Another quirky question. Oh yeah, this is an important one. Barbara is not going to let this one go. And but it's a double question.
Okay.
We've got to know what president you tripped. And do you have any scary experiences from travel with the White House staff?
Oh, yes, I do. The trip. Okay, that was Reagan. That was President Reagan. It was an accident. Just full disclaimer. Um, I was covering return from Camp David, a routine return on Marine One, the presidential helicopter, landed on the South Lawn every Sunday. So I had to go downtown and cover it. I drew the short straw to do that, and so it was just a small press pool, and then the president walks and the first lady walk from the helicopter into the West Wing, and that's it. And then you go home. So uneventful. So part of my job was to hold a boom microphone out of camera. So you'd be squatting with a boom to get the most accurate representation of what the president says when the press asks questions. So there can be no, you know, differentiation.
He said,
If
she
something's
said, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
exactly, or inaccurate reporting. This is
yeah.
the White House archive would be the final word. So so there I was with my boom mic. With the president coming in, and Sam Donaldson was there, who is often there and provoking as he does. And it was the Iran-Contra scandal was in full force at the time. So he was there to provoke, and his toupee flapping in the helicopter wind. That often happened. And he was yelling, Mr. President, did you sell arms to the Contras, Mr. President? And I was looking at Sam, and President Reagan got to be in his bonnet. I'd never seen him move so quickly, but he was not happy. And so he came over to Sam kind of in a walk run, sort of a heavy stride, and he didn't see me. And his foot got caught under my knee, and we both caught air, just took flight, because he was coming at such a velocity. And he flew over top of me and landed on his hands and knees behind me.
And did like 6 security guards run over immediately?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Might have been more than 6. I'm not sure. Wow. Because they were still on high alert from the previous shooting.
Yeah.
So he went down. And, this is the next time you see him go down. And a little fun fact, Larry Speaks at the time was the press secretary, and his rule was no women could wear pants to work, or we'd be sent home. You should have tripped him. So, yeah. So imagine my situation when I went back with Reagan in maybe a less than ladylike position with cameras rolling. So I'm just hoping that never surfaces on social media, that there's a can in the ABC vault somewhere of that, because the cameras were rolling. So to his credit, he grabbed my elbow, like an elder gentleman, and said, "Did I hurt you?" And I said, "No, don't worry about me, Mr. President. Let me help you up." And he refused. He had to help me. He couldn't have cared less how he looked. I guess he had fallen off enough horses. And he helped me up. And of course, the Secret Service, they were all on top of us and kind of peeled off and helped him up. And he had ripped his pants. Did you like him?
Was he a
He
kind,
was
like as a human being, not president, not politics, as a
right,
human
right.
being? What do you think? Did you like him? You don't have to
He,
answer that. Maybe I shouldn't have asked that question,
no, it's fine.
huh? He seemed like
Um,
a kind human being. Politics aside, you know how you get a sense about a human being. He seemed
mhm.
like a kind human being.
Yes, yes. In that at that point in time, and I believe this has changed. You moved very freely around the White House. Like you, I would a couple of times I just literally bumped into him walking around a corner. You just run into each other, or I'd always be in his events or in his home, covering events in his home when the First Lady too. So, um, yeah, he was always very kind and respectful one-on-one. That was my personal experience with him.
Oh, guys, can everyone please check and make sure that you're muted? Because if you're not, it comes up on the camera. Claudia, please, can you say
Yes,
something?
sure. I'm here.
Okay, there, I got you back. Okay, bit of editing, 37 after. Okay, so do you know what? That always fascinates me because they said that about Bill Clinton, that even if you hate his guts, if you met him in real life, you would love him because he
Yes.
would charm you and make you love him. And I find that about, we see these people and we get opinions about them, and we see their public profile or that, but there's a reason they have gotten to the level that they've gotten to. And most of that reason is they were able to charm their way up there, you
Well,
know.
that's absolutely right because,
Yeah.
certain people change a room when they walk in. They
Yeah.
the
Energy.
there's a charismatic attraction to them, and it's why they are, why we know them, because they tend to do that where they go. I mean, you know, some of it's cultivated, some of it's a gift or some combination thereof. But Reagan was one of those people, and he brought that in where he was, and the press felt it too. I mean, they'd be the first to explain it, and to admit to being part of that, kind of under that spell a little bit. Or when he
Yeah.
entered the room, it changed a bit. And of course, The Office didn't hurt that. The power of The Office.
Yeah, and then the power, but then the power goes into the energy of who they are as human beings. And it's like your job in Washington changed who you are as a person. It added, I was reading something today that I found really interesting, and it made me think. It was that the best pension you're ever going to have is the things you learn, but more importantly than that, your ability to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what I say to everyone as narrators, as freelancers. It's the best pension we'll ever have. There is no security. There is no
Mm-hmm.
job security in any job you're ever in, and you wouldn't want the job never to change anyway. But you're supposed to keep doing the hard things and changing as a person and taking the
Yes.
next step, the next step. That's your pension, because then
Yes.
you become, and they're saying that these days the skills level is changing so fast as people try to keep up with the digital world that has like been super fast after COVID. That's
Right.
changing so fast that companies can't even train people fast enough.
Hmm.
So most bosses are training all their employees are smarter or more knowledgeable and talented than they are, because you've got to keep up your skills. So that's what we have to do. I don't know how I got on this, but
It's
another
important, though.
question, um, from Mary, curious about what you read for pleasure when no one's looking. I added that part.
um, I love thrillers, murder mysteries. I love that. I love whodunits. And I also love biography. I really love musicians or artist biographies. I love to read about resilience and overcoming obstacles, and that kind of the power of the human spirit. Stories, and that a lot of that comes through in biographies, because people who end up writing their memoirs usually have overcome something, and they've walked a walk. And so I always find that inspiring, and that I can take something from that maybe and translate it and apply it to my current situation, whatever it may be.
I think we should all be required to write a memoir, every single one of us. I think it should be like a literal requirement at a certain age that everyone writes a memoir, because that makes it so that no life is a waste. And then we can all, and like put it in a big vault, like everyone's memoir, so we can look it up, like maybe not alphabetically, but like by keywords, taglines. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, sure. Or you could cross-reference.
Wouldn't that, I think it'd be
Absolutely.
fabulous. And then we could all learn from each other.
I'm
The
kind
biggest
of,
lesson.
I'm actually narrating a book right now that's sort of along those lines. So you're really onto something, Daniela. It's called Web 3.
Oh, I might need to listen. I do like that idea. Wouldn't it be a great, is it
Yeah.
science fiction that you're narrating?
No, it's not. It's tech. It's kind of like
Tech.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, what is it about this word that I can't? Audio description.
Oh, audio description.
You and
yeah.
Nicole both do it, and we're lucky. I think we've got Nicole here as well. So I've got
Hi,
the
Nicole.
two resident experts. Can you please tell me, A, how you got into it? B, I don't really understand. I kind of vaguely understand what it is, but tell me, give me the scoop.
Yeah, I auditioned for an audio description job through my agent a little over 10 years ago, and I didn't know what it was either. So you're not alone, Daniela. It really has gotten more awareness has been built around it in recent years. I'd say just even the recent 3 or 4 years. SOVAS has opened up categories, the SOVAS Awards. So I think that brought some awareness too in the voiceover world. But audio description is basically making the visual verbal. And I am stealing that phrase from the godfather of audio description. His name is Dr. Joel Snyder. And he literally wrote the book on AD. And he's prolific. He really created this with another woman in the 80s to for the blind and vision impaired community to bring
so it's
things.
that thing on the TV when they say she walked over to the couch and rang the doorbell. That's that. So it's not subtitles.
Right.
It's
Subtitles.
not that. What's that called?
That's
Separate.
Closed caption. Closed
so you
caption.
could be called for two different jobs. Do audio description people get called for closed caption jobs?
No, because closed caption is for the hearing impaired. So that if you can see the captions and read them, then that's to serve that community. Audio description is for the blind or vision impaired. So, but you have the oral input, so the consumer or the audience member can hear what's happening but can't see it. So we paint the picture orally for that community, so that they're able to see it, to envision a facial expression or something that's happening between characters or a beautiful sunset. Whatever information they can't gather from the critical sound elements and the dialogue, we fill in. That's what Nicole and I do.
So technically, what's the difference between doing those two things technically? Like, how do you actually do it? Do you go into a studio always? Do you do it from home ever?
I do both. I do both. It's if you do it at home, I'll work over Source Connect and have an engineer and a director in my ear. So they'll be in different locations. They'll send me the script ahead of time. I'll read it off of my iPad like an audiobook, and have them live directing me through the session. And then rewriting. A lot of rewriting happens during, because if someone wrote the script and then there's a different director, then they might see something that the first viewer didn't, that the writer didn't see. And those things are common, or names will be discovered as you go through the program, and you'll have to go back and so that's one way. Or if you go in studio, you'll work with a software on a screen across the room or a monitor, and you'll read off of the monitor. But most audio description is ice cold reading. So that I think is one of the bigger challenges of it, is making sense of it. You're reading a little bit ahead as you do with audiobooks, but you haven't read the book beforehand.
But I bet you're
So
good at it now. It feels like a skill that if you get good at it, you'd be able to almost see ahead, wouldn't you?
you develop techniques, yeah, to do it. Just nothing to do it but to do it, right? You get practice and realize what doesn't work. Think, oh, don't do that again. You don't want to read too far ahead because then you're not at the present moment. But you're always walking that line between not sounding too clinical, too lectury, or just monotone, and and then on the other side, you don't want to insert yourself into the production as or insinuate yourself in as another character and compete with the performers. So that's very important to describe rather than to perform. So our best compliment is if they forget we're here.
So
We
you're
just become,
describing the movements and then their dialogue still comes in. So your
yes,
description is interspersed with their dialogue.
yes, unless it is a foreign film and you're reading subtitles as well as the action. That's a workout because you're reading all the characters' lines, making an attempt to differentiate between the characters just enough for clarity's sake to make it clear to the listener that they are different people speaking, but not so much so that you're competing with the production.
But what a
So
wonderful exercise for being a narrator. I'm not just saying that job is obviously there's another world other than narrators, and that's a job in its own. But I'm just saying, if you did only live for narrating audiobooks and that was all you cared about in the
yes,
whole world, that exercise, doing that all the time, would make you a top grade narrator, wouldn't it? Because you would have to have connection to the script, have to be able to differentiate, have to be able to cold read, but not insert yourself too much. Every single thing you're describing about that job sets you up to be like a flawless narrator. Brilliant.
well, from your mouth, as they
So
say.
which came first, narrating or this, or the audio description? I'm going to get that name right.
Audio description came first, but I've done voice work for many years before that. Audio commercials and video games. Actually have a video game that it's going to be released any minute now. I think the first quarter, and it's the official game attached to the movie Attack of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh
I
my
don't know if you know
God,
that.
very cool. Okay,
So
wait, I've got to interject with this real quick because
sure.
now a bunch of people are kind of asking this now. Do you or Nicole offer coaching or workshops for audio description?
I have not done any formal coaching or workshop. I've had a lot of people contact me about it,
I'm just
especially in recent
saying,
years.
everyone loves
Um,
you. Everyone loves Nicole. I heard a rumor you
yes,
were friends. If
we
you two
are. Love
were to
Nicole.
hold maybe
Love
a
her.
Saturday workshop.
We'll talk, Nicole. I don't know if Nicole has offered that or wants to do that, but
I know, Nicole,
um,
if you're still there, type in the chat or come on up if you
there
are
she
here.
is.
Sometimes, because I don't know, sometimes people come on the calls, they're like in their PJs and they're like, I'm sorry, but don't call me on camera without um,
Right. Been there.
yeah, so, well, she has confirmed that you are friends.
We are indeed. She's
And
beautiful.
Barbara has said she'd be there in a hot minute for an AD workshop. Nicole says we will discuss. This is Claudia's time for now. Thank you very much,
Oh, that's
guys. So
nice.
you guys, I feel like a matchmaker here. Okay,
You are.
back to the good stuff. I need to know about your first foray into audiobook narrating, how it happened, what gave you the idea, what was your experience? Did you fall instantly in love? Did you think maybe what do you think?
I had dabbled in it years ago. Took a couple of classes. Took a class with Pat Fraley, of course. I loved your session with him.
Such a nice
It's
guy.
it's
He's
incredible.
because he looks like one of those veterans, and then you get him on a call. He's like so sweet. You just want to.
Yeah.
I wanted to make cookies for him for some reason. He's so nice. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry. So
He's
you
got a
trained with
huge
Pat.
heart. huge heart. And yeah, and that was many moons ago. And then I got away from it and did other voiceover. But in this recent, in 2018, I decided to really give it a serious look again. And I thought, well, I knew Scott Brick did audiobook narration. So I did a session with Scott Brick and said, guide me, asked him, what his opinions were, read for him, and asked him my questions. And of course, he was his signature, gracious, incredible self. And he was very encouraging, gave me a lot of resources, one of which was the wonderful Hillary Huber. And I've been coaching with her ever since. I started at probably the end of 18 or 19 with her privately. And so that was, I loved it.
And
the more
Hillary fans, you can't. Hillary's like our goddess here. We all love Hillary.
What's not to love? So so that was my introduction to serious training and coaching, and then I was introduced to more workshops and things, and taking Splendiferous and everything we could do online, of course, because that's what we had access to at the time, and just continued studying. And I the more you know you don't know, kind of thing. But I discovered in the process how, as cliche as it is, how wonderful the humans are in this community. It's just, it never ceases to amaze, how generous people are here.
What's
and
your first
willing.
APAC? Your first APAC?
This will be my first in-person APAC. Yes.
Well, it's you're in arms of people that love you. You've got like a large following, as has become evident. But this call, Deanna wants to know. She says she's never been to Santa Barbara, and she's curious to know, what are some of your favorite spots for fun and relaxation when you were out of the booth?
Oh, thank you, Dee. Well, I'm about 5 minutes from the Pacific, so that's the first. It's nice to have a local vibe after so many years in LA, where we couldn't, I couldn't get anywhere if I didn't get in the car. So I can walk there, and I really appreciate that aspect of being able to be outside and communing. Yeah.
But yeah, it's so the beach, like, oh my gosh, can you like walk to the beach and just breathe air?
Yeah, we can actually walk to the beach, which was not the case in North Hollywood. It's LA. It sounds like it's the coast.
You have to be careful not to step on the needles at Venice.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's sad but true. And to go from the valley, anyone who's lived in the valley or traveled there knows that it's an all-day affair if you're going to go to the beach and back on a Sunday. So you're not, it's not down the road a spell if you're in the valley. So
even one side of LA to the other. We used to live the Fairfax district, which is where the Grove was built, right? The Grove area.
Right, sure, yeah.
Even getting from there to the beach was like 45 minutes,
Exactly. And then there's parking.
Yeah.
All that. So
almost
I appreciate
it.
Yeah, you do, it's a day trip. So I appreciate the ease. That's a big aspect to answer Deanna's question of being here, because all that energy and time spent in, fighting the elements and being on the front lines of commuting, etc., is now spent in a more quality. It's got a higher quality of life in general because of that, because I can, it's more an elective time instead of literally hours in my car every day. If you're going to do 2 or 3 different things,
And you're near Solvang and Morro Bay, aren't you?
Those are a little bit north of us. Morro Bay's, I'd say about 3 hours maybe.
And Simpson Beach, have you been there? Stimson Beach or something? A cliff on top of the world. It's the most beautiful place in the entire world. Have you been there?
I have not been there, so yay, a new
gotta
place.
see it. Stimson or Simpson. I think it's Stimson Beach. It's the most beautiful. You go to this beach. Next thing you know, you're on this cliff, And you are literally on top of the world. Literally, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen
Oh,
in my
well,
life.
I'll have to put that on the list. Thank you
It's
for
not
that.
far
I
from
didn't
you,
know.
and
I didn't know
it's
about it.
stunning,
Ah,
beautiful.
Stimson Beach. Okay, I'll look it
I'm
up.
pretty sure it's
Absolutely.
Stimson or Simpson. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Stimson.
Okay, I'll
Kim
find it.
says, "What's the oddest thing you've eaten or served and chose not to eat?"
Well,
They've always got the wicked twist in there for these guys.
let's see. Okay, well, I have served. I worked. I lived for a couple of minutes in Miami Beach, Florida,
Oh,
and I worked as in an Indian restaurant, and I wore a traditional sari, so I could only my gait was about maybe 10 to 12 inches. I could only kind of little geisha steps, and I did serve a lot of very hot traditional. These guys, they had just come over literally a month earlier from India, so this was all traditionally cooked, and so I
wow.
served. I can't really be in the same room with hot food, so um, I served it, but I wouldn't eat it. I couldn't get anywhere near it, and I saw a lot of collar loosening and ice water pitchers being left at the table in that
I
job
love
because
that. I don't think I could have resisted. I love the hotter the better.
you would
I
have loved
love
it.
hot
Right
food.
up your alley.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think that would be a way to go on your tombstone. She died eating too spicy food. I like
It's a
that.
t-shirt.
Or overdosed on absinthe, one or the other. You want to
Yeah,
go in an interesting manner. You don't want to be like died in her bed.
right. That second one might be more fun.
Yeah. Oh,
The
I know.
absinthe.
Absinthe and spicy food.
That'll
You
take
can
out.
tell what books I've been reading lately. Okay,
Right.
so here's the big one.
Mm.
You thought you were going to distract me with the quirky answers, but here's the big one. People watching this in the next 60 years, if you
Mm.
left them with one statement, or you want them to take away one thing from having met Claudia Dunn, what would you like them to go away with? Words of advice, a funny joke, way to look at life, something you've learned. What would you want them to remember?
Hmm. Well, I think that 60 years there will be challenges and obstacles and hurdles as there are now, as we've just gone through, still going through. Um, and I would say, I'm not sure who coined it, but I'll just repeat it. Never underestimate the power of human resilience, the human spirit, and keep the faith, because you know we're an amazing being here, set of beings, and we'll find the way. It's we've been through a lot in these last few years, and we're coming out the other end. And I just say, keep the faith.
I can say unequivocally that, is that right? I'm really losing my words today. That what you said, what we were talking about, what you've learned, and how you changed from being in that job in Washington, and me listening to that and feeling less cynical, and then you talking about the energy that some people have, like a Reagan or somebody walks into a room. You have that
Mm.
energy. And I think we've answered the question of why so many people love Claudia Dunn and why so many people wanted to be on this call. And most of the people haven't even met you, but there's an energy, and it's so stable and so steady in you that it comes
Mm.
across even on a platform like Facebook or on online social events. And we all want that. We're all scrambling for that connection with something real. And you, it's very rare, are something real. And I think that
Oh,
touches and
so
helps
sweet.
people.
So kind.
So I don't know, because you seem like you seem slightly humble, so I can't see you walking around going, I'm the big I am. But I really think it's important to say that there it doesn't come from nowhere. Somebody that everyone gets excited about and says, "Oh, I love this person." It doesn't come from nowhere. It's some people walk on this earth with an energy that gives to the rest of us. And you
Mm.
personify that energy. And it's been an honor getting to spend this time with you.
Oh, that's so kind,
I
Daniela.
hope you have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful
I
time at
did.
APAC. Sprinkle all that magic dust over all of them. Make everyone happy at
I'm,
APAC.
I'm just everyone's going to be. It's going to be so great to see everyone, and I know we all feel the same way. Just so excited
Yeah.
to connect. Thank you, Daniela. This has been a real joy, and I'm honored to be asked to be with you today.
It's been
Thank you.
wonderful. And don't get me started. You guys, I will be snoozing you all for 30 days if you go bragging about your outfits and showing me photos of APAC because I'm bitterly jealous and I'm planning my 2025 wardrobes.
Oh yeah, we're
So
staying
they're
tuned
all
for that.
planning, they're comparing and they're having private meetups and planning wardrobes. And I want to do that next
Oh,
year. Next
absolutely.
year.
That's
Yeah,
right.
not next year. Next year's online, isn't it?
Yeah. We can still can still compare wardrobes though.
Yeah.
There's never too early.
Yeah, I find that the lack of like I'm big on the online thing. I'm like, and everyone else is like, yeah. So
Maybe as
yeah,
it gets closer.
2025 outfits.
Yeah,
I hope
that's
you have a
right.
wonderful time and you're
Thank you,
amazing.
Daniela. Oh,
Thank you.
same back at you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Mwah!
Thanks,
See you guys
everybody.
all later.
Thanks for
Bye.
coming. Bye.